Right. We have finally made it to the last module, which is fulfillment. And without fulfillment, all the acquisition, everything else we have done doesn't matter because if you can't fulfill, you will lose all the clients, right? So, besides retention strategies and everything else, this is the one which discusses the actual meat of the business. Now, before I get into sharing the strategies, we would likely cover hiring staff, leadership, retention. Sorry, we already covered retention. We'll cover overall frameworks that you could use that would benefit you when things get tough and everything else. But I just want to make one thing clear. I won't give you the specifics of what to do. Like, no meal plans or workout plans or anything like that would be included because this model is so broad that first of all, I'm not an expert in those things. So I don't want to claim things, even if I have knowledge on them and teach you guys on it. And most of you have your own strengths. So that is the area that you can focus on. What I would do on the other hand, however, is I will cover the other skills that are equally important when it comes to fulfillment, like hiring, like business management skills, like actual delivery and servicing skills that we can use and that should get us good results. And if we don't understand those frameworks, you can get a lot of clients, but the experience is horrible and you're stressed out all the time. And this essentially will try to make sure that we don't make those mistakes. And this is probably the biggest mistake I see people make happens in fulfillment. All right, so let's get started with the presentation first of all. So I am going to share my screen and present. All right, so fundamentals of fulfillment. The first thing is the goal of the business is to stay in business, right? It's not to acquire clients. Because like that's the first phase. Ideally, you also have to deliver them. And quite often people get so focused on acquiring clients and they let their guard down as soon as their marketing or the sales or everything else starts working that they forget that the actual thing that the business is based on is the delivery, it's the fulfillment, it's the actual service and experience that people are getting when they use your product or service, right? And if that is horrible, then people are gonna leave. Okay. So obviously, retention and success of your business depends on the quality of your fulfillment. Doesn't matter how good you can attract people. Like you can't, like I think I heard this somewhere. I think Grant Cardone said this that you can't sell puke. Like you can sugarcoat it, you can cover it in gold, but like puke is puke, which is a very graphic example, but you get the point. And the thing is, fulfillment is also where most people are delusional. If your product or service was actually that good, there would be a line outside the door of people waiting to work with you, and everybody would be knowing your name, and you would not need to market because your referrals would be so many that your business would automatically scale and grow on its own, right? The thing is, that's not the case. Quite often, the reason people are delusional here is they think that they make claims our service is better or there's something special about us. But most people in the fitness industry traditionally are similar, and most people are different. And most things that you can come up with, whatever secret method you have, there has been some form of research done. So it's like that excuse that our experience is better or our delivery is better, um, is something that you can tell yourself to justify the fact that when people give control over to others, the only reason we're not growing is for whatever external factor, right? And I'll get to that later, but that's generally not the case. Usually, your product isn't so good, yet you don't understand the systems, and you quite often can't make it better because you don't know how. Your skill or knowledge is maxed out to based on what you could do. So these are the unknown unknowns. And obviously, throughout your journey as a business owner, this is something that you would get better at. And it will be fun to see your journey and how you're able to make things happen, right? But before that, let's circle back and come back to scaling this. So I and before I get into the next steps, the issue I've seen happen is business owners bring in people. I'll like share the next slide here. So when you're selling, when you're marketing, the reason people leave is because of expectations. They don't leave because there was something wrong. with the product or service, but they leave because what they expected wasn't delivered. And this is where during marketing and sales, people make mistakes, or even when you're building the funnels or the ads, where you overpromise on things you can't deliver on just to get the sale. But the thing is, you're not optimizing for sale, you're optimizing for business growth. And I have seen this happen so many times where it's like fulfillment is, it doesn't matter how many clients you're able to get because the bucket has holes. So the more people you get, the more will leak through it because the actual delivery isn't good. And as a matter of fact, your reputation gets more damaged as time passes on because people don't like your service anymore and they tell their friends. And it hurts your overall convictions as well as being a business owner. Now, and the thing is, it's not quite often about the service itself, but it's quite often about like the promises you're making to them, right? Like we'll guarantee, like people sometimes just really, really get on someone's face and promise them the moon and the stars, and you don't want to do that. Like just use this product, it will fix all your problems. Like, set clear expectations. Make it clear that they have to put in the work as well, and you can't magically fix everything, but you would do everything in your power to help them get to that dream that they have, right? Um, but make those things clear, what is required from them. Don't try to cut the corners here because they end up biting you back later on. And the other thing is over deliver, over exceed the expectations. That generally works better. Send them, I think I covered that in retention strategies and everything else, but have a personalized experience. Surprise them with something that they normally wouldn't have expected. So their emotional investment within your product and business increases, right? Because people would otherwise come in and they already have buyer's remorse, and you put fire on that by completely abandoning them or just doing the bare minimum because you made such high promises and now you're coming up with excuses and all that why you couldn't lose weight because you don't have the work ethic and now you're putting it on them. But the thing is, they already knew that. You already knew that as well. Imagine taking on more and more clients and making the same excuse repeatedly. I've seen businesses do this. I'm like, then why are you still in business? Your job is to fix that for them. But anyways, so there are always loopholes and everything is imperfect and clients are imperfect, but your job is to use your skills and use your ability to compensate for that. But anyways, over deliver on what they expected. And that is so much easier to just make the client experience better. Where like if they like give them a bonus without them expecting anything, provide them free value without them like have another call with them. Like do even little things like have you seen like reciprocity work in play when in class you used to give out candies to your friends and now everybody liked you? Literally things like that, little things like that do have a difference. But even with what they bought, sometimes some people do this where within the offer they charge slightly higher for the hidden things that they will deliver on them, like giving them a personalized kit or me or like something that they get after purchase which wasn't accounted for, and that automatically increases the emotional value that you have in their that they have for you. Anyway, so that's the first thing, right? And yeah, experience over results. Again, if the customer experience, the customer support, everything else is really good, even if the results are not perfect, people will still want to stay. Use that to your advantage. Moving on to the next thing. No, I do realize that quite often, especially if you're starting out, your ability to deliver on the quality might not be perfect, and that is completely fine. I don't want to be the guy who sets those unrealistic standards that you're gonna born or you're gonna start your first business venture and automatically your quality will be on the same par as somebody who's been doing it for years or for whatever resources they have. But the thing is, time value has a higher cost, right? Like the more you delay starting, the less people you'll be able to help. Because the sooner you get better, the sooner, and because you get better results and you grow faster by starting, as opposed to by delaying it. Um, like definitely start. Like don't get into analysis paralysis or set such high bar for yourself, especially in the beginning, because you don't know what good looks like at this stage. So don't try to overcomplicate things. And it's fine if you're making mistakes in the beginning, and the life of a business owner is going to be filled with mistakes. But as you're getting in the clients, and as your revenue is increasing, and as your sales numbers are increasing, keep in mind that the goal was quality. Um, and that was the main priority. In the beginning, quantity is fine, but in the long run, term quality is the goal, right? Marketing, sales, everything else is a catalyst. And by that, I mean that marketing speeds the business up. Sales would speed the business up. Lead nurture acquisition speeds the business. You can obviously frame during that and you can set up expectations and everything else. But the thing is, if um, the bucket has holes, you're gonna go up fast and you're gonna go down fast. So if the delivery is poor, you'll get a lot of clients, they'll leave very quickly, your churn will be through the roof, and you'll lose money and you'll be like, what's going wrong? And then your business journey, which was gonna be like this over 5 years, it just happens like this in 2 years because this is because of the product, not because of the marketing, right? So it's like there's a plateau that you're gonna hit, most likely anywhere. So definitely keep that thing in mind. Next thing is there are two things that you have really high leverage on after acquisition, which is first one being people that I'm going to cover in the next lesson, which will be hiring, retaining, onboarding, culture, uh, all of that stuff, outsourcing stuff, adding extra value through processes that don't cost a lot and stuff like that, those hacks, the more tactical side of things. But people are one of the most highest leverage things you could have. They're high-end performers who have been in your shoes and gotten the results and understand what it takes, right? The culture is set by the team you attract. You want, bloody, if you're trying to build a business that is like world class, you need SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force level team. You don't need like normal, nothing against like this, but you don't want like normal soldiers. You want the best of the best. You want the people who are like one out of a million. And is that gonna be difficult? I mean, you can like that's where we cover talent acquisition in the next chapter, but that's where we take. So have a good team and then learn how to get the best out of them through culture, through your leadership, and then retain them. And then also with yourself, because you come in the people's category, your own skill set, your own beliefs and convictions, and your own ability um, as an owner will have such a high leverage on the business. Like a more skilled business owner will definitely like it's not the vehicle, the model would could be the same. I could give the same model to two business owners. Or heck, I could give an even broken model to a skilled business owner, and he would make more money from the broken model than an unskilled person being handed like a pot of gold because he won't know what to do with it. And the same thing you see with pilots, right? Um, I can give you like a really state-of-the-art aviation jet or a car or something, and if you don't know how to drive, it's useless. Most of these things, everything else that is being shared here are tools. Your skill to use them is the key, and you develop that by making mistakes and actually learning, executing and learning and blah blah blah, right? Second is systems. Automate the process, systematize the process. Even for like everything else, there are systems, there are frameworks, there are structures. Have them in place, learn them, understand them. We covered a lot of them in the previous um, lessons like retention strategies, marketing frameworks, systems, sales systems, everything else. But like, don't leave things to chance. Try to systematize everything so you're not like throwing darts in the dark. I know, like, obviously, there's always a element of research and trying new thing and testing and optimizing, but that is part of the overall strategy, right? So you want to be able to have better systems than the ones that a normal gym would have, and that would give you a much higher leverage when it comes to fulfillment in your like overall client delivery, in your overall like vendor sourcing or whatever, getting supplements, everything like that. Have better systems in place that are more comprehensive, that cover all the variables, and that are more efficient, so you'll be able to grow and get better results. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, there are seven king-making skills. First one is adaptability. AI is going to come. You will obviously get more and more new changes happening. That's the part of a business. Uncertainty is like we always walk like the feeling of uncertainty is the feeling of entrepreneurship. There will be times when you won't be able to make ends meet. There'll be times when you don't know what to do. You're starting a new venture. You have so many paths or you have no path at all, and you're feeling stressed. You're feeling anxious, and you don't know if it will work. That's entrepreneurship. But at the same time, during times like these, um, or even when you're setting out for goals and everything else, as you're growing, adaptability is the most important skill. I think Charles Darwin had this quote that it's not the smartest who will win at the end of the day or the strongest, but the one who is the most adaptable. It's like depending on situations, a smart person would be required. For a different situation, a strong person would be required. For a different situation, somebody who has a completely different skill set would be required, right? So being a business owner, you want to optimize for the end result. If everything I discussed in the past is no longer efficient, then don't use it. Like maybe 2 years from now, if you have like AI bots who are better at closing deals and your priority is to get sales, then use those. If, on the other hand, in person ends up being your unfair advantage because um, there's like so much saturation of AI generated content that in person is the main skill that has more value, then get better at running events and get better at doing one-on-ones and getting people into those environments, right? Adapt for what is likely going to work because it's not the tool or the tactic. Even if you got good at it, don't give into the commitment consistency bias where just because you were using one framework means you need to continue using it. If you've made a mistake, correct that. Um, but yeah, adapt based on the situation. Do what's the best course of action for the situation objectively without emotionally thinking. And and you will see this on a regular basis. In the beginning, one client of one sort of team, like the current team might be useful in current context, but as the business grows, you might need a different sort of executive team, right? You need to be able to adapt to that. If you don't, the business will stay stuck. Same for bottlenecks, everything else. Right? Next king-making skill is responsibility. So don't be a victim. Being the business owner, being the person who's delivering and fulfilling the clients and everything else, it is your responsibility. Everything is your responsibility. And like, I don't know, the Spider-Man quote, with great power, with great responsibility comes great power. I just reversed it. But like, the thing is, your control over the situation is going to decide how much results you can get. And obviously, there are things outside your control, but you need to do everything you can, right? And the last thing I want is you guys or us, even myself, end up being like people who blame the circumstances or who blame their team members or who blame the customers or everything else. If the customer is not having a better results, your responsibility. Come up with systems to help them that. If the team isn't performing, you hired them. It's your responsibility to correct it. It's your leadership. If the sales or ads are not working, it's your responsibility. Even if Facebook changed the policy and bans your platform, it's your responsibility to come up with a different solution. Have absolute ownership. Don't give control to someone else because then when things go wrong, you don't get sympathy points in life. There's no point in being the person who like you might get justification, but it doesn't take care of the problem. It doesn't serve you. It might give you like a temporary relief on a subconscious level, but the problems will get worse. And there's no way of fixing that except for you getting better or coming up with solutions. And that's something only you can do. There are things only you can do, and you have to let me do them. And being the business owner, you're the person who gets all the shit and all the tasks that nobody else wants to do and all the problems because you're the vanguard of the business. You're the person who's standing at the front facing the brunt force and the problems and everything else. And with that, you have the control of building something great. And also with that, if you give it up, it like will just like sort of weird you out. Um, like a lot of weird, like just I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, but there are some horrible business owners. Anyways, next one. Pain tolerance. Growth pains. Just like you guys go to a gym. When you learn a new skill, it feels uncomfortable, right? Um, the person who can tolerate more discomfort during those phases will likely get further ahead. If you have the willpower to feel uncomfortable, like somebody who goes through the system and applies all of it within 4 days, even if it was uncertain, through the same feeling of discomfort, right? And learns the lessons and everything else, or takes everything he can and makes those mistakes and gets better because he's able to stay focused for a longer period, make sacrifices, whatever, go through that discomfort, that person will be further ahead than somebody who is dependent on a lot of easy things or who has like it's like it's not about whether you can handle pain or not. It's about how much pain you can handle, right? It's not about yes or no questions, but more about the extent of it. Like it's not about how good whether your team is good or bad, but how good is the team. It's not about whether your skill, your marketing or everything, like same thing applies here. So the more tolerance for pain you have, the bigger challenges you can face, and the faster you can grow because growth comes with pain because you're doing things you're not used to, and like you'll have to make sacrifices, and the faster you try to grow ahead, you might end up doing the thing that you were the pain like it's like the shit you were gonna experience in 5 year period, you shrink that down into the first month, and you will grow within that first month. But can you handle that, right? Um, but you can absolutely go crazy with it, and sometimes it works well trying embarrassingly hard. And those of us who are willing to do that get further ahead. But also, like, sometimes it's fun because you know that at the end of the rainbow and with whatever infinite game thinking you have in mind, you get better. And the more you get used to it, the more capable you get, and the less it affects you in the future because you're going to face difficult challenges any phase. Problems are guaranteed. You can't avoid them. So you might as well get used to it. And then they won't have the same effect that they would have otherwise. Which brings us to our next king-making skill, which is action capacity. So, again, related to that, your ability to do the work. But more importantly, this is not just about your willpower, right? It's also about systems and removing things that don't serve you or doing things that have the highest leverage. So it's like I used this example earlier when we were doing an objection overcome for a client that they say that I don't have time. Then you can say, well, Jeff Bezos has the same amount of hours in a day than you do. Well, how can he get so much more done? We'll say it applies here. It's not about what they're doing, it's about what they're not doing. And if I look at your calendar, really look at your calendar, there would be like time you're spending on bloody social media. I think like most of us spend like 2 hours a day on it. Can you cut that back by 1 hour? Right? Cooking, cleaning, doing your laundry, going out with friends. Is that uncomfortable? Yes. Do I prescribe that? Do what's important to you. Okay. To me, being successful and helping people and all of that stuff is more important, which is why, like, I don't know if you can see my screen. Sure. So it's like, it's 11:18 right now. Okay, I'm doing this after work. I could be sleeping in my bed. But there are people who are staying up the whole night, so this is nothing to brag about. But again, you do you. But still, your ability to get things done, never put off until tomorrow what you can do today. Finish things up. And you just, it's like Elon Musk had that saying that if you work like 18 hours a day when everybody else is working 6 to 8, you get done in months what takes them weeks. And if we can look at the work that we were trying to do in 2 years and see if we can do that in 6 months or 3 months, even if you don't get it done, you'll get just so much more done than what you would have done otherwise. And it's exciting. It's bloody exciting because the closer I can get to the goal, the more fun it is for me. And that the value of that or the happiness I get from that is higher than the happiness I get from drinking alcohol and partying. Okay, moving on to the next skill. And being a business owner, you would need that. Um, Knowledge. An idea that you get while walking on the beach can make you more money than a lifetime of labor. I learned that from Ty Lopez, and that is absolutely true. Colonel Sanders, quite a bunch of things. Like I can just give you so many examples, but like imagine you're being mentored directly by Arnold on working out, or imagine you learned business directly from Steve Jobs, or imagine you had like um, Elon Musk showing you how to colonize Mars. Well, that's a bit extreme, but you get the point, right? Like look at the most successful people and imagine they were directly your mentors. You can do that. Shadow them digitally. We live in the digital world. People used to walk on bloody camels across deserts back in the day, fighting off thieves to go to a different country where there was a library and they would go and get the knowledge that they wanted from that. And there was like, now we have AI, now we have all of these tools, which obviously also has double-edged because it takes your ability to critically think away. But like, the smarter, it's like you have such high leverage on the ideas that you have. So like everything that I just mentioned right now, this is knowledge until you apply it. But still, like these systems, if they're better than the inefficient practices you were doing beforehand, and this knowledge is just on its own able to boost your business significantly, you should always be actively looking to find such stuff. And not always it would work. Like sometimes, like I've read almost 1,000 books so far. Not all of them were good. maybe 10%. Like every book was good, all of those things, but the ones that were good kind of changed me. And they like you look at most successful people they read all the time. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, a bunch of these guys. Also implementation, or they have mentors, right? Or they're surrounded in an environment where people share ideas that are good. So it's like different sources that bring you to their level artificially, artificially surrounding yourself by successful people or doing it in person if you can't. If you can do that, but yeah, definitely prioritize knowledge, learn new things, test those ideas, and the flywheel of Amazon that some of those would work and they would change your life, right? Especially in business. You don't know how something works, Google it. Seriously. Um, we're not living in dark ages anymore. Anticipating the future. Super important things. Mock everything, anticipate everything. There will be problems. You might have to fire an employee. You might get an angry client. You might end up being visited by somebody who's your idol once. You might end up getting certain objections in business. You might end up having to, like, I'm not saying go over the edge with this. There is a balance, obviously, and there's no point worrying about what if scenarios. So, like, don't emotionally get invested into contingency plans, but just objectively have them in place. Like, think about them, make notes, store a place, have a video diary or something where you account for things that could happen and you know how to handle them. If you have to sales a dream team, or if your executive isn't performing, or the new business that you plan on expanding, and things like that, or the things that will likely happen in the future. Like, you can, even not in the long term, but even in the actions you're taking. So, similar to your business, let's suppose we get 10, 15 clients tomorrow. How will that play out? What could go wrong? How will we fix the things that could go wrong? If you don't have the mental capacity to think this on your own, ask ChatGPT. Like seriously, it will give you a risk analysis of everything that could go wrong, and just handling that makes life much less stressful because you plan a few steps ahead and every problem has a solution, right? But and you can't avoid it. So you might as well become the person who is walking a few steps ahead and who's thinking a few steps ahead. So and you get used to it over time as well. Like, this is an important thing. This does seem uncomfortable at first, like everything, like going to the gym and fitness, but all of these things are skills. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And the less stressful your life would be. So again, and don't give like if-then scenarios where I know, I'm not asking you to go paranoid, think about all the horrible scenarios. This is not that. This is about the likely scenarios that are going to happen. At some stage, being a business owner, you might run out of cash. Now, instead of hoping that never happens, maybe plan out how you can handle it. If you can't come up with a solution, then just think about how you'll manage your mental state during those scenarios. If nothing is coming to mind, then look it up, learn, right? But you can prepare for it right now so that when it actually happens, you'll be much better served. Okay, next thing. I'm going to share my screen again. What was the last one? Time value of a business. So, time value of a business is that you can spend 6 months deciding if you're going to start or not. Um, or you can start, okay, actually, I'll use a better example. Let's suppose there are two investment options, and you think that if I invested, so there's I invest $1 million in and I get $2 million back, you'd think that's a good investment, right? So, but how long would that take? So, on one hand, if I invest 1 million and get 2 million back, and that happens in 6 months, that's a great investment. On the other hand, if it happens in 60 years, well, that's horrible because I can spend 1 million in something else and I would probably make much more than that, um, like 2 million back the return that I'm getting. Even if you put money in stocks, you'd have like the opportunity cost is so much higher, right? And the same thing applies with time. So the faster you start or the faster you start taking an action, it compounds over time. Your skills will like you can start marketing today, you can start learning ads today, you can start improving your skills today, even if it's imperfect, even if you're slow. You can start hiring members today, you can start into like adding new service features or whatever or things that you want to do. The funnels today, and in 6 months from now, they would like just by default pace of business growth, as long as you don't screw things up, even if you do, you'll still be better off than you are right now. But let's suppose you do that. You'll get better results. And the future business that you could have had when your sales, marketing, everything else is much better off because you started today, even though you weren't ready, or just because you started earlier and you had that head start. Versus 6 months later, you finally am like, okay, now I don't have as much going on. I'm going to focus on marketing. And the business you could have had is the opportunity cost. And most of us starting fast and on time can have significant returns. Okay. So there's always like the ROI that you get on starting early. Don't ignore that. It's one of the biggest things that people forget. Time has like, same for business owners, like, sorry, same for clients. A client starting 3 months later versus a client starting today. And in 3 months, you get them to, um, you upsell them onto a higher ticket package, right? Or you get them to retain. So on one end, within the time frame of 1 year, you're making 2x. But are you making 2x? The more revenue you got, you reinvested that into other things. So overall, you could have had 4x return just by getting that person to start on time. Obviously, if you have systems and everything in place, things we don't track because I don't want to sound like those people who are like, you can make so much money, but still, there's always returns. Next thing, creating situations where you have no choice but to make it happen. Create environments, commit it publicly, tell others, same thing that we use to increase accountability for your clients can be used to increase your own accountability, but um, instead of it being for working out or nutrition, this is going to be for business skills because the same principles apply, right? So commit to it publicly that you're going to grow your business to this level. And if you can't make it happen, you'll pay this price, increase the pain, maximize the reward. Tell that to all your friends. Like create like that social pressure, if that's something that works on you, would be a good thing. Otherwise, add more consequences of what are like the worst you can make it. Like the more bridges you burn, the like human beings, we have this ability to succeed or make things happen, and our brain adapts to whatever situation we're put in. We've been made that way evolutionary, regardless of what you think of yourself. So definitely something that has worked really well. And you would know that because when things go wrong or all the failures that you survived in the past that you didn't think you would make it off, or the revenue targets that you had when you thought that your cash flow was going to run out. That was a situation where you had no choice but to make it work, right? Now the world threw at you, but why don't you deliberately do that for yourself as well? Is it a headache? Is it annoying? Sometimes yes, but pick your poison. If you're gonna get it, if that's gonna happen anyways, depending on the goals you have, why not deliberately have fun with it and get used to it? Right. Feeling of work versus actual work. This is the lesson where sometimes we have all of these things going on and it's taking a lot of mental space that we think we're working all the time. But in reality, if you actually look at the hours that you were working, that might be like 5 or 6 hours. The remaining time, like you're eating lunch and you think about, like you're thinking about work versus actual work. And like in my previous workplace, we had 200 clients assigned to me on the first day. And many like I remember my workmates who were just some of them were getting stressed out. The previous person was like that. I was just realizing that I'm gonna do the same amount of work within the 18 hours regardless of how many clients are assigned to me, right? So it's not that by having 200 clients assigned to me, the actual exertion I'm doing is a lot. It's still relatively the same. Yeah, I can increase it potentially, but I would have done the same thing for anything else. So the actual work, maybe it's more efficient now because I'm coming up with better ways to get them serviced, and that work is working on me because my skills are improving. But otherwise, yeah, it's like don't create these mental situations in your head that get you to run away from it. It's not mostly it's not that big of a deal. Mock role play situations, I already covered that, and I believe that is it. So these are some fundamental lessons that I wanted to work. Now, within the next ones, we'll get into the actual tactical things like servicing clients, not servicing, hiring, retaining, outsourcing staff, leadership skills, and a bunch of other cool stuff that I think you should be aware of. KPIs and stuff like that that will help you have a smoother journey. Besides that, all of these things, someday they might come into effect. Um, and all of these are like, this training is mainly made for people that I'm working with. So I might make it public, but this is what I would have done. This is what I would have recommended that my team do if they were working with me. So it's entirely up to you to take it or not. But at the same time, this is a fun journey of being a business owner, and fulfillment is the area where you actually showcase how good you are. And many of you are already great at fulfillment. So go out there and crush it.